trafficking in human beings, Serbia remains a country of origin, transit, and destination for trafficking and all forms of exploitation, in particular sexual and labor. New awareness-raising campaigns and training sessions for prosecutors have been rolled out and should continue. The network of local anti-trafficking teams has expanded and is in place in 17 locations across the country. The draft Anti-Trafficking Strategy 2013 to 2018 and Action Plan 2014 to 2015 are still pending adoption, and a comprehensive, multidisciplinary and victim-oriented approach remains to be developed in cooperation with non-governmental organizations. The Center for Protection of Victims of Human Trafficking needs to strengthen its capacity to be made fully operational. Victims need to be better identified and receive more assistance, support, and protection, and a shelter for victims needs to be made operational. Police capacity to efficiently combat trafficking in human beings needs to be ensured and its enforcement improved. Training modules for police, including border agents, needs to be enhanced. The position of the National Coordinator should reflect a multidisciplinary approach to the trafficking of human beings phenomena. According to data from a non-governmental organization entitled Center for Girls, there have been 739 registered cases of human trafficking in Serbia from 2000 until 2013. Out of those, 92 were discovered in 2013 and 88 in the first half of 2014. The Center for Girls emphasizes that these numbers are a serious warning and call for strong intersectoral collaboration. In 2000, when the battle against human trafficking in Serbia intensified, this criminal act caused two major amendments to the Criminal Code of Serbia. The first time in 2003, when it was introduced into law, and the second time in 2006, when it was extended to include unlawful border crossing and smuggling. Law enforcement has a key role to play in institutional effectiveness against human trafficking. The City of Niš Police Administration has encountered almost all forms of human trafficking over the past 10 years. Among them are begging, sexual exploitation, and child trafficking for adoption purposes, says Dušan Klikovac, Divisional Chief of the Department for Suppression of Human Trafficking in Niš. He says that the number of cases of human trafficking has been rising since the appearance of job advertisements seeking individuals to work abroad, namely in the construction industry. Since 2000, non-governmental organizations, together with law enforcement, have played an active role in the fight against human trafficking. Astra was the first local NGO to be launched. It was joined by approximately 15 other organizations in 2002. Today, we are speaking with Ivana Radović, the coordinator of prevention and education program at Astra, a local NGO dedicated to the eradication of human trafficking. Can you tell us about the work that you do and the action behind human trafficking in Serbia?
Human trafficking in Serbia does not differ much from human trafficking all over the world, and especially in Europe. We have around 100 victims identified every year, and as everywhere else, it is just the tip of the iceberg. And generally, we have all forms of exploitation present here. Mostly it is sexual exploitation, but this year, for example, the majority of cases are labor exploitation. We also have forced marriages, child marriages, forced begging, petty crime, and everything else that is present everywhere in the world. Victims are mostly women and girls. When I say women, it is really young women. And again, this year is rather specific. Not because of changing trends, but because of changed state action, government action. If I can say that maybe 3/4 of victims are male. It is adult men exploited in construction sites mostly in Russia Federation. And children are around 1/2 of all the victims for years. It has been present for years. And if we put aside this year, when we have a lot of identification in a foreign country, what is specific for the last, let's say, 6 or 7 years is something we call internal trafficking or local trafficking. It is when victims are recruited and exploited in one country, in this case Serbia, without crossing the state border. But there is a lot of questions behind that. Why is it like that? But most of victims in Serbia are recruited in Serbia and exploited in Serbia. So we have a really small number of foreign victims exploited here, and small number of cases that our citizens are identified as victims in foreign countries.
You mentioned approximately 100 cases, but how many convictions versus suspected cases of human trafficking has there been to date in Serbia that you know of?
It can't be traced. I mean, maybe it can manually and investing a lot of time, because not all cases reported to the police end up in court. For many reasons, and sometimes when you have, for example, international case, it is prosecuted in a foreign country. So you can't start from the police records and then follow up. Then when you look at the number of identifications, there is one state agency called the Center for the Protection of Victims, and they are officially in charge of identification, and they don't rely on the police information for identification. So sometimes the case can't be prosecuted for different reasons, but the person gets the status of a victim, and it is fine. It is normal, and it is how it should be. But what we do every year is that we ask for all judgments made in the previous year, and figures and exact judgments, and then we do the analysis. And we we had the idea to make a link between prosecutor's office and final judgment, but it is also difficult because trials, they last for years. It is 5 years, 6 years, sometimes even more than 10 years, and so you can't follow it year by year. And but for example, last year we had, I'm looking at our analysis for 2013, and we had 39 judgments, of which 16 were first instance and 23 were final judgments. And it is compared to other countries in the region, it seems rather high, but and I was surprised to see that big number. But when you when you know that, for example, last year we had, I think, 92 cases officially identified, it is not so big. So, but it is, conviction is one thing, and it is important, but the time and the process of getting to the conviction, it is very difficult. In addition to being long, it is very traumatic for the victim, because it is not something where you appear once or twice and end with it. No, I didn't only observe victims, but we had one very odd case, if I can call it like that, where our colleagues were summoned as witnesses, and it is something that we don't approve of, but defense lawyers insisted, and for them they were coming to the court every 3 months for 2 years until finally they made their statement. So it is not only that you are questioned many times, but you have to go there and to face the people who abused you terribly, and you don't have any place to hide. Corridors in court buildings, they're small, and everybody is around you, and there is the issue of security, and there is psychological issue. You know, when you're expected to take over control of, to rebuild control over your life, and start all over again, and it is rude to say, but you're expected to act as if nothing happened, because you know, you are supposed to be lucky to be alive and to be out. And I mean, the system of support in our country sends you that message, and on the other hand, you are constantly reminded of what happened to you. And you can't say no, because if you say, I don't want to come and testify, they say, okay, we will arrest you. So you have no choice. And you, as a victim, you are put in a rather schizophrenic position, I must say. And additionally, exploitation is almost always commercial. Nobody exploits other person for some non-commercial reasons. Maybe it is not money, but some benefits, certainly. And you, although you're, according to the law and international documents and everything, you're entitled to compensation, you never get it. Astra has been working since 2002. Last year we had the first final judgment about which granted compensation to victims after 7 years, and it is 4-year criminal proceedings, 3-year civil proceedings. And after so much money invested from our side as a victim assistance provider, and so you have a trafficker who abused you, who earned a lot from you, and you're expected just to be there and to accuse him and to give the main piece of evidence against him, and you get nothing in return. So it is a very difficult position, and it is something that you know, everybody says that our judiciary is inefficient and slow and everything, and it is, and we are aware that we can't fix it just for trafficked persons, but providing assistance to them, we are becoming aware, we are remaining aware day after day how unfair it is for them.
Are you able to comment on the severity of sentencing for those convicted in Serbia in comparison to other international jurisdictions?
It is interesting. Let's say the sentence for the main form of human trafficking is 3 to 12 years in prison. But when you look at the statistics, you can see that it is around minimum. And since 2009, you can't pronounce a sentence which is below minimum. But before that, we had sentences of a couple of months, you know, and it's unacceptable. And I have an example how that minimum looks like, because it is always around minimum. If you commit human trafficking as a part of organized criminal group, your minimum sentence is 10 years. And we had one case 2 years ago, I think, which was tried by the special court. And although they could pronounce any sentence, in the end it was between 10 and 12 years. And when you say 10 years, it looks huge. But when you look at the law, you see that 10 years is the minimum for that. So even if it is not so small, it is still around minimum. And it is not all. I think that what keeps human trafficking going generally, globally, is the fact that a very small number of traffickers, get convicted. And you can look at, I think that UNODC has a very good database, and when you look at foreign reports, including USTAP report, you see that there are a lot of actions, there are a lot of things going on, but the number of convictions remains small. And when you ask experts about the severity of the sentences in general, they say it is not important how severe it is, it has to be consistent. And that you know that if you do something, there is a great likelihood that you will be convicted. And here, when you know that it is not so likely, and if you go to prison, it will be 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and that your profits won't be touched. So for an organized crime, it is occupational hazard, which is acceptable for them. So it's a bad message regarding prevention, let's say.
Can you talk to us about the links, if any, between human trafficking and organ trafficking in the region?
Well, organ trafficking is one of the forms of human trafficking, but if we put aside the case related to war in Kosovo, we didn't have such cases in our practice, and I think that such cases were not recorded in the region, but it doesn't mean anything, because compared to other forms of human trafficking, which are all pretty much hidden, I think this one is the, if I can say it, the most hidden of all. Right. So the fact that there are no official data, it doesn't mean anything.
Okay, thank you. Who or what are your biggest supporters and most valuable contributors in the fight against human trafficking?
Well, we are an NGO which depends on foreign donors, and let's say 10 years ago, when some changes started in Serbia, donors were they expected that Republic of Serbia would assume financing some services and anti-trafficking activities, but it didn't happen. And now we are faced with a situation that it is very difficult to raise funds for services. And when you see some government reports, you can come to the conclusion that services are funded within that state social protection system, but they are not. And there is not many of us in Astra, but we do a lot of things besides victim assistance. We work on advocating structural and systemic changes and building institutions and professional capacities and so on. And for us it is very important to have donors who are flexible and who understand that you can't change compensation system in one country overnight or in 6 months, even in 2 years. And so far we have been lucky to have such donors, but it is very difficult to find money for what we do, and especially money for victims. And apart from international donors who value our work and who recognize our work, we have great support from NGOs in Serbia. Astra has that feminist origin, and we have been founded as a women's organization, and back then human trafficking was almost exclusively in Serbia. It was sexual exploitation, it was women, girls, and now it changed, but we don't forget our feminist origins, and we cooperate with the women's movement here, and also with all other CSOs, because we're focused on human trafficking, and it falls within everything, from women's rights to monitoring negotiation chapters 23 and 24. So we work with almost everybody in this country and also in the region, because human trafficking doesn't know state borders. So we have a great network of organizations and individuals in the region and in the whole Europe and in many countries in the world.
Thank you. And what are the biggest challenges to preventing human trafficking?
It's a difficult question, because the whole area of victim assistance is a challenge, because when you put aside organizational issues, it is difficult to recover, because you fall victim to trafficking because you want to solve a problem that you have. And when you get out, you have the same problem, but your capacities for dealing with it are significantly diminished, and you're required to recover psychologically. You're required to behave as everything is fine, to take care of your existence, where are you going to live, where you're going to work, how you're going to support your family, all those practical stuff. And you are not, especially for the first months or even a couple of years, you don't have capacities for that. So it is the work itself is a challenge. But when we talk about prevention, how to help people not to become victims, it's a challenge in itself, because there is a belief that victims are naive or even stupid and that greedy and so on. But it is not like that in reality, because people it is, poverty is where everything starts, and poverty, discrimination, marginalization, and all sorts of deprivations that we live in. And when I have to send some preventive message, I have a huge ethical dilemma, because not all people can afford to be careful. Not all people can afford to choose. When you have no offers for a job or for something else, you take whatever is there. And at the same time, you look at your friends, your neighbors, your relatives who did the same and did well. And there is no rule where something is just suspicious but normal, and there is something is suspicious and you will end up like a victim. So people always ask us, how can we protect? Can you give us some advice how to protect ourselves? And then I can start with take care about job offers you take. Don't accept jobs without a written contract, for example. Don't accept offers where you don't know what is actually offered, but it is not realistic, because our labor market and the world around us doesn't work that way. I can't tell somebody who is trying to find a job for 2 years and has a family and 3 children and so on, don't accept that job because you don't have written contract. I mean, I can, but it is unethical, and it is not realistic. And then when you push that way, you can only get the response, which is I don't know how to call it, but when you insist on something which is not realistic, people don't listen to you. So we are trying to be realistic and at the same time to help people stay safe in some alternative ways. But until we solve, and we, when I say we, I think, I mean society, not Astra, until we solve some core causes of trafficking, we can't do anything with, we can't do much with some preventative tips.
What system supports are most vital to your work, and what would be the greatest enabler in preventing it or furthering it in Serbia?
Yeah, it is usually not only regarding trafficking, but regarding other issues. In Serbia, you can hear complaints about the police or judiciary and so on, and nobody mentions the social welfare system, which should be much stronger and much more involved, but really involved. Not on paper, because you have law which gives you certain authority or certain competencies, and you don't have instruments to use it, or you don't have human resources to use it, or skills or such things. Because when you read papers, you can observe the tendency to put all social problems to the police to solve it. And then you can read about the mother whose children were burned to death because of the fire, who is in jail, and it is something to be treated by the police and by the court, and nobody calls social system and asks how did that happen. So it is similar in the human trafficking area. When we are often asked to talk about the profile of the victim, we don't have that, but the only thing that the majority of victims have in common is, for example, the previous history of violence, family violence, partner violence, and history of contacts with social welfare centers. And nobody observed anything, or nobody acted on what they observed. And when they return, they even if you have social workers who want to provide support, they don't know how, or they don't have time, or they don't have skills. So it is, in my opinion, for full recovery and for good prevention, social welfare system is the one to be really empowered, and everything else is just the response.
Thank you very much, Ivana. Is there something else that you want to tell us that you feel is important that our readers would want to know about human trafficking and the work that you do?
It is sometimes human trafficking sounds like something exotic and something interesting to read about, and we never think about ourselves as consumers or as the ones who make it possible. You know, we are not aware because we think that it happens to somebody else. But the thing is that exploitation wouldn't be possible unless there was a market for exploitation. And market, it is all of us. Generally, human trafficking is understand as a sexual exploitation only, but there are all sorts of exploitation, and there are all sorts of products made by victims of trafficking, or maybe not trafficking, but other forms of exploitation which we use, from our clothes, from our food, chocolate we eat, things we use in our daily lives. It is when we have something cheap, and we have to buy cheap because we are poor, it means that somebody made it even cheaper. So be aware that it is not something that doesn't touch you in any ways. In a way, all of us contribute to it. And the only way to fight human trafficking, not on case-to-case basis, but really is to change this world structurally. Everything else is just a response.